Sorry about my internet.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back
We're
to
good.
another episode of Always Almost There Evening After Show. We got a two for you today. A trio. Based on recent reports I've seen on some social media platforms, we've got a trio today. We've got myself, we've got my good friend Danny Rosewoods over here, and his good friend making his debut on the pod, I think. Danny, you said?
Yep, pod debut.
Bjorn.
Bjorn the snail.
Bjorn the bucket hat. Welcome to the pod, Bjorn. Welcome. I'm personally very excited to have Bjorn here on the pod. I don't think we've ever had a
Welcome.
bucket hat co-host
Well,
before.
yeah, we've make it work this eve.
It's excellent. It's
So
excellent.
how about the
And
show
everybody's
tonight?
Wi-Fi is
Manchester,
working
eh?
perfectly too. Manchester, listen. In the absence of anyone here to refute me, Manchester is the Shohio of the UK. This is what people are saying. I've seen at least one post on social media about such a thing, and that seems to be what nobody's refuting that on the internet right now, and so I would be inclined to agree.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Who knew that the UK internet
Well,
would be better than
they
Wisconsin?
didn't play in.
Not
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Not me. Somewhere. Manchester's close to Liverpool, so you got a lot of musical history up there in those parts. It could be the Shohio of the UK.
I think it is. Just based on tonight's show, what we got, again, getting into this venue, it's basically a university gymnasium, and I'm saying university because we're in the UK. It's not college here. It's university, just like back home in the motherland, of Canada. But tonight was really cool because you get this space. They're on a small stage, but this is one of the biggest venues of tour so far. I believe the capacity was like 950 or something like that. But it wasn't sold out tonight. I think also, last night was the first show of the tour that wasn't sold out. So another, milestone tonight, seeing that, not that it's a positive milestone, but we had a ton of space towards the back of the floor. People were very excited to be there tonight. Met a few locals, but felt like a lot of people who were familiar with Goose there tonight. Not as many. We lost Danny, which is fine. We've seen that the UK Wi-Fi is superior to the Wisconsin Wi-Fi, which is okay. But I'll keep talking here. We had members of the Billy Strings crew in the house tonight. Billy Strings crew and photographer and what have you. But vibes were generally off the charts tonight for this pod. So please bear with me if I do end up having to do this solo. I've done it before. I'll do it again. But let's dive into the show. I'll start with these first three songs. We got Elizabeth, Lookout Cleveland, and then Flow Down here. We start off short gap Elizabeth, but great Chugel, as we've talked about on the pod over the last few days. Hit some Bliss themes again, sub 10 minutes, but really, really excellent jamming. This Elizabeth. Danny's back.
Sorry about
Danny, I just dove into the first set a little bit, sinking my teeth in as you return here. Liz Bliss, Elizabeth Bliss, Lookout Cleveland, Funk, and a nice little flow down. What are your thoughts on the first three tunes of the show here? You might have thoughts.
Well, we in terms of the stream, it started again around. It might work. Wisconsin internet coming in hot. So we didn't get into the stream until Cleveland. So there was a little delay. Missed the Elizabeth completely, Elizabeth Bliss, as we had to get Ryan's report Seemed like it was around that same 12, 11 minute. And then Cleveland, yeah, we jumped in kind of right around the clav, and solid.
Clam.
Yeah, Jeb loves a little vocal action. I was I was thinking even Casbah potentially, or maybe they'll do that in London just with the Clash connection. But yeah, and then flow down,
They
slow down.
listen. They played Casbah on the bar tonight. As I was catching my Uber back here to do this, I couldn't tell if Jeff was about to break into song and start singing along. But he seemed excited by the fact that the bar was playing. So that was pretty cool. Second half of the first set, we get our first big jam of the night with Everything Must Go, followed by California Magic and Tumble. Everything Must Go, we've seen on this new trajectory since Red Rocks, right? Of course, this new jam just dropping into this minor chord instead of the propulsive thing that we saw earlier this year. And I mean, this is, I think, out of the three versions of this style they've played so far, this is the second best after Red Rocks, definitely surpassing Amsterdam a little bit. And it's cool to see them kind of get a little bit more exploratory with it, toggling back and forth. We hit some major themes in there, hit some minor themes. But I don't know what it felt like from the couch there for you, D, but it felt like to me that they're working on seeing how big Everything Must Go can go. And whether that happens at Goosemas, whether that happens, in 2024, I think this song has a very, very bright future ahead of it. What are your thoughts on this here?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought I actually was kind of distracted in the midst of some other things I had to take care of, including not work, but so that was I didn't get as much of the Everything Must Go as I would have liked. And so I need to dig in a little more. I caught a little bit, jumped in kind of post composition on the ride home from yoga, and I really thought that it sounded good. We had a fellow pod mate, Neil, was saying he felt very fishy on it, and kind of it did. It sort of had like Peter was creating some good spaces, and Rick was really kind of dancing in, and just a slowed down drums and bass. Um, yeah, like you said. So I need to give it greater than. But I just love the style. I like the down tempo, sort of different paces on the jams, sort of the darker spaces that they can get to, and kind of going minor more often. Like you said, it had some major peaks, but yeah, it was probably more or less, could be argued for one of the jams of the night for sure.
Definitely. And definitely my jamming highlight of the first set here. We get a solid Cali and a really solid, energetic Tumble to close out the set here. I was surprised to see both Tumble and Elizabeth popping up so soon. I feel like we saw those songs relatively recently. Tumble in Copenhagen, Elizabeth in Berlin, but didn't feel like these songs are ready to come back around yet. But we got great versions of both tonight, and so Tumble is pretty hot. Peter's sticking to guitar for a little bit longer than he has been recently, but again, just hitting those energetic peaks, closing out the first set in style. And again, this is a really, really solid first set. And I think for me, the highlight of tonight, obviously the centerpiece of tonight, is the second set. This is truly a spectacular set in terms of song selection, in terms of flow, in terms of execution. Oh, yeah. It was incredible. Do you have before we dive into the specifics, D, tell me a little bit from the couch, your overall scope, your thoughts of this second set.
Yeah, no, I thought, immediately after I said hastily, probably said of the tour. I think just in terms of song selection, like you said, some solid versions of good songs, good choice songs that we like. Yeah, nice cover, obviously, the second appearance of a great cover that we saw. So without getting into specifics, then you get a massive song that they've thrown so much energy into and has become the jam vehicle basically for them in the last year. And then, yeah, another one that kind of you get some good bliss spaces and then a nice little sandwich at the end. A little awkward, but overall, song selection straight through and execution, I'd say was, yeah, like the best set of the tour, I think, for me, without another listen right now.
Absolutely. I would agree with you on that. I'm not sure, what specifically you thought was awkward in that set. And I'm curious to dive into that a
Just the
little more.
drive sandwich, just the sandwich, of course,
Interesting. Okay.
coming back
Because
into the jam. That's it.
that was also unplanned, right? If you saw
Yeah.
the set list, they were planning on going Drive Western Sun and Madhavan
Yep.
for the closer. But starting at the beginning of this set, when they broke into those first notes of "I Would Die for You," I was so excited. There was not really cell reception in the venue tonight.
Yeah.
And this was the last time. I ran out. We were on the second floor of the venue. I ran down the stairs to send the set list tweet. And then, I had already warned Neil back at home, the cell reception is kind of spotty. And by the time Thatch started, it had lost completely, even in the lobby. And so I was like, Neil will take care of it.
The boys have got it.
So
yeah.
shout out to Neil for taking care of it. He's at Aggie right now. But I'd like to give a shout out to him for, taking care of it when I lost service tonight. But seeing "I Would Die for You" a second time, after the debut at Red Rocks last month was amazing. People were so excited for it tonight, obviously, because it's an amazing cover.
Good.
Rick slayed it, for lack of a better term. Shout out my sister for me using that word. But
yeah, the Axel F, the little Beverly Hills vibe.
Little Axel F, and they jammed it out a little bit harder tonight than they did at Red Rocks, which is really cool to hear. And I think this, this is not the last we're going to see of "I Would Die for You," and this is not the most jammed out form we're going to see from "I Would Die for You." I think we talked about it on the Red Rocks pod and on a tour recap pod. This song's got jam potential.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think so
Has
too.
more.
Yeah, and we sort of saw a little more of like a dancey disco vibe, the first one, I would say. And then this second version, you had the Axel F, so it kind of immediately took a little sort of turn, and they stretched that section out a little longer than maybe some other teases when we'll see it in like Tumble. I know a lot of Tumbles in 2019 and stuff like that. We're getting the
Creatures,
Axel F. 2018, 2019 Creatures. Yep. So that was cool to see that come back, because that's been a tease that hasn't been around for a little bit. I think 21 maybe. I can't remember what, like you said, maybe a Creatures or something back then. And then also, I think, it's funny they write Prince, setlist Prince. So it's just
they know what they're playing. And they knew after Prince, it was time. I kind of thought it was coming maybe last night in Glasgow. They did have it on the set list last night, but it was time tonight. We got the Thatch. They dropped the Thatch. The coin effect, just like at Red Rocks, on the clav,
I Would Die for
made
You,
a return.
Thatch.
There was no, so I would like
Mario.
to say there were no Yoshi samples tonight. We saw a little clip of Peter with some Yoshi samples on Twitter yesterday. But no Yoshi samples, unfortunately, made an appearance tonight. But this Thatch was amazing. Again, just like Amsterdam, they stripped it down to very bare bones. Trevor bass at the forefront of the mix once again in this jam, just really leading where they're going. And I really want to shout out Spuds here too, because I've noticed over the last few shows, Spuds, there have been a few jams where Spuds has been taking like a real leadership role in the improv, in the music, which is really cool to hear, because he's someone who's normally plays a supporting role in Goose. He's the beat behind Rick and Peter and behind, the main thing. And there have been things like the Redbird from Brussels and in this Thatch tonight, he's really at the forefront.
Yep.
And it's really cool to hear, especially that popcorn snare in Thatch, that like fatter, thicker snare that he's got. It cuts right through, and it's so good every single time. But this Thatch peak just kept going and going and going. Once Rick took hold of this little progression that he got into, this is is the best Thatch in a while. I think, this might surpass some versions from this fall. I also might be hasty ranking and attendance bias. So please keep that disclaimer in mind while I'm talking about this. But man, it was just, it was phenomenal in the room
We
tonight.
never do that.
Both vibes and music. But I'm curious, what did this Thatch feel like from the couch, Dan?
Yeah, I think once you had the Prince, the I Would Die For You opener and Thatch, just like Red Rocks, that pairing, I think it fit really well. We all kind of thought it was coming. Like we said, it was on the set list last night. And yeah, I think it's just, like I said, even in my little brief synopsis, it's definitely the best, arguably the best jam vehicle consistently that they're putting out right now. It's finding something kind of a little different each time, which is great. And that's important, I think, yeah, we sort of clamor for variety and some sort of unique approaches to their improv, and Thatch sort of provides that. It can kind of, like you said, they can strip it down, they can kind of attack it a little heavier. And yeah, tonight I can't wait to hear it again too. Same thing, another one like just like Everything Must Go, I need to hear again, but I was glad to see it just kept things flowing, and we went right into Creatures. So,
and I mean,
short
yeah,
rest
it was
too
great.
there.
Short again, yeah, absolutely. Short rest, another song. I had missed all my picks tonight. I was expecting that one to pop up again. We haven't seen it since Cologne. Been a minute, but Creatures came back tonight, and it seemed like it was going to be your run of the mill, really like fiery, energetic mid-set Creatures. Keep the energy going, keep the dance going, and they did that through the peak. But then, they did the standard Creatures peak and,
List it out.
the tarantella, if you will. But then,
Yep.
as they hit that chord, Garrett and I were kind of had a moment where like, maybe it's going to be Shama here. Felt like maybe it was a Shama night, but
Yep.
they
I
just
almost
kept
thought
going.
Gamma.
They just kept going instead. It really calls to mind a little bit of a Cap Drive kind of motif. Shout out to friend of the pod, Lucas, who said that. Thank you, Dave Feldman. My voice sounds like I had a blast tonight. I did sing loudly tonight, as I tend to do.
He's had a blast for
I
a
will
couple
say,
weeks.
yes,
He's had a blast.
it's been a couple weeks. I will say my voice sounded better before the show tonight than it does right now. I have not totally recuperated. I would like to shout out, my propolis spray for helping me out here. But this Creatures Bliss segment, it reminded me a lot of the Cap Drive and the Cap Creatures, where you had this kind of standard jam for a big chunk of it, and then they landed in this beautiful bliss zone for the last few minutes. That one had a nice little Star Wars tease from Peter. But it was really cool to get this kind of pocket of jamming that was very unexpected. Thatch, when they played it, I expected it to go big. Drive, I was waiting for it to go big. Creatures, as the jam started to unfold, I was like, we're going to get this really solid, energetic one. And getting these few minutes of just beautiful, beautiful bliss was an incredible gift. And just, again, the vibe was incredible in the room tonight. Danny, what did you feel about this Creatures from the couch?
Yeah, same thing. I think in terms of the spray it out. In terms of the approach that Creatures has had lately, it's one that I still think has sort of needed a bigger version of. I mean, like we don't maybe listen back all the way to like Fred 2021, like the May 2021, that is not the fest. But just like that being a great version, like a version that I would want to listen to again. It's been sort of a minute. They did their arpeggiator version at in Chicago before Louisville, and that was a little different. So like it's cool to see it. And then the Bliss section, which yeah, you said the Cap version. We had Legend Valley, of course, last year, so that was very cool. And this one a little different though. Like you said, Rick, very like a very guitar led Bliss and sort of like floating space. So that felt awesome. It sort of just, I think it threaded the set together very well as we headed into into another one that we had been looking for in Drive too. You're like, oh wow,
Yes,
you got I Would Die for You, Thatch, Creatures, Drive, and we're just like, this is a great set. So that's how I
exactly.
felt. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, all killer, no filler in the second set here. When they started Drive, the place went crazy. Whether they were going to jam it or not, I was kind of, as they were playing Drive, and as I was obviously jumping up and down very excitedly and singing
Singing.
along,
Yeah.
playing very exuberant air guitar, I was still thinking in the back of my mind, like, are we at the right point in the set for a jam here? Are they going to do no jam Drive into Madhavan to end the
Yep.
show? What are they going to do here? And so it was cool, that when it was clear that, they were finishing out the Drive, no jam initially, and they did Western Sun. I think all of them, Peter included, expected them to go Madhavan to finish there. Peter strapped on the guitar. He was ready, and he said, we got one more for you. And then Rick said into the talkback mic, presumably, like, let's do the Drive jam. And then Peter said, maybe this is one more, unsure of how it was going to go from there, which was pretty funny. And also funny to me, he strapped on the guitar, ready to play Madhavan. And
He got
then
shut down.
within seconds of them starting the Drive jam, he was back on keys, which was pretty, it was funny. But they started the Drive jam.
He's limber.
Yeah. Second Drive sandwich of the tour. And I got to say, Danny, I'm not sure your thoughts on this, but I love these Drive sandwiches. We saw so many versions of Drive with no jam in the spring and early summer. And so it's cool to see them, taking this fiery, guitar solo Drive portion of the song, giving us something like Western Sun or Bob Dawn in Paris as like a little landing pad, and then jetting off on the jam again, like they did tonight. And I mean, tonight's was special. This is one of those things where, you go to a Goose show, you're not expecting a ton of unexpected things in terms of like set list or segues. Most of it is planned based on the written set list. But when you get something like this Drive tonight, where, we're vibing along to this really celebratory, peaky jam, really excellent. And I kind of start hearing like, it's got kind of this SOS vibe. Like maybe Peter's playing, kind of an SOS CCP happening there. And then they keep going. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I think that counts as an SOS tease. And, obviously I had no service. And so I was unable to see, the chatter in the rest of the community, and, wasn't able to put out anything definitive on it. But then, Peter keeps playing it. And then eventually Rick caught on to the theme, and, the rest of the band starts playing the SOS jam just out of this Drive, which was so cool. And then I was thinking to myself, they could just kind of end it off of the jam, like they could just be like, we're vamping on this for a while and then end it. But when Rick kind of turned back to Spuds, gave him that look like, we're going to do the ending. Like, fuck it. Like, who cares? And it was so cool. The energy in the moment when they hit those, repeating notes to end the SOS, people were going crazy. And it was really, really amazing. It was a phenomenal way to close out the show tonight. I really hope it kind of impacted the same way from the couch. But man, it was incredible moment in the room tonight.
Yeah, it did. I definitely agree. I think that I like a sandwich and sort of splitting songs up a lot. We've seen it with Madhavan.
Who doesn't?
And yeah, agreed. I want more sandwiches and segues as always. So I thought that it was great. It was a little, we sort of were joking. It was a little like, hey-o to Peter, kind of he was ready for one thing, switch to the other. Shows obviously their ability though to like make that decision on the fly, which was good. So that's something like he's obviously equipped to do that. So it was like, bam, right back onto keys. And the SOS kind of Dawn, you got Rick kind of playing some of those notes for like the Dawn piece of it too on guitar, and sort of the SOS finish. And as they wrapped it up, and it's great. I think that's cool if they can kind of blend songs together or sort of throw those little teases of other songs that are coming in the night or that they've been played, whatever. But it hit. I think it was a great way to cap the set. We've talked about, let's give Madhuvan justice, in Bristol or London, in terms of obviously wanting it to have its full potential. And that's
Where is
something
the
I think,
Madhuvan?
well,
We haven't seen it since Paris. What's going
I,
on here?
well, are they just gonna do it? And I mean, I don't know if they might just rip it on a 450 person barge in Bristol, or they'll just throw it out in
Little
London.
barge,
Yeah.
little
Just
Madhuvan on the water,
just a
if you
rip in
will.
Madhuvan. Yeah. So I thought it just capped the set really well, though, the drive sandwich. And it was better, like we said, than maybe like a 12-minute Madhuvan, that like takes it away maybe from the
Absolutely.
weekend and takes it away from the weekend and sort of. So yeah, it felt like they were throwing some songs out, like we said, like Tumble and Elizabeth, to kind of give some other ones some focus for the next 3 nights. I think it's shaping up really well. I think
Yeah.
the band sounds great too.
Well,
They're
again,
sort of hitting their stride.
this was their first 2 consecutive shows since Paris Cologne to start off the tour. When obviously
Yep,
we're
it
still
was
getting
very
acclimated
stop-start,
to Europe.
very
And
stop-start.
basically the vibe I got tonight was, we've been here for 2 weeks. We're playing shows at this point. Like who cares? Like we're just gonna play, and we're gonna do whatever. And it was awesome. We got like some like swagger, a little bit from them tonight. During Creatures, I was watching Spuds, who was like really, like looked really excited on the beat. Did like a little stick flip, like in
Nice.
between hi-hat hits. It was like, they were having a blast up there tonight. And they were playing, I mean, just on an incredibly high level, as we've talked about. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where we go in Bristol and London to close out the tour. We got 3 nights left. This Madhuvan, again, similar to back in the spring where they didn't play it for a large number of shows. It was on a couple of set lists, it got cut, and then they came back in Nashville with this huge 28-minute version. So really excited to see where, obviously the Bristol or London Madhuvan, wherever they decide to play it, how this ends up and how they decide to approach these last, few shows of the tour. Obviously, we've got a boat on Saturday.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think they might go with an approach of it being, you got a smaller show, and then we got the 2 bigger shows in London with a bigger crowd, and maybe like you're going to get some more fans. The little barge show is probably going to be very small. It's sold out, but you're going to have a lot of Americans there, and like they might just throw it down in a small last show before 2 bigger shows. You'll get your Hunger Site, you'll get your Dripfield, you get your Born, you'll get those songs. We probably get Thatch again on the Monday.
I'd be okay with
show in London. I think why
Personally.
not do it one more time? Yeah, why not again?
Yeah,
your dad said it in the chat. I think he was saying, why not?
Why not? Yeah, he said now room to have another Thatch in Europe. You're absolutely right. It could happen.
Yeah.
I would say if they'd played Thatch, in Brussels or last night, I would say 100% is coming. Night 2 of London.
Yeah, it is a toss up. Yeah,
this might be a little bit of a short gap, but we'll see what happens. Anything's possible. Obviously, we will be back on Saturday night here after Bristol, 8 p.m. Eastern. Will I be here? Will I not? We don't know yet. But there will be a podcast, and people will be talking about.
I won't.
The Goose.
Bjorn and Danny won't.
Bjorn and Danny won't. Bjorn and Danny have a prior engagement on Saturday night. Neil, where is Neil? Thank you for asking, Katie. Neil tonight.
We got a hockey game.
Neil is not spending time with his family. Just like people to clarify that. Neil prioritizes the pod over his family because he's responsible. Tonight he's at Aggie. He's seeing some other live music. So we would just like everybody to know and be secure with the fact that Neil did not choose his family over this podcast. He's seeing live music, which is the only real excuse for not being here. Am I right, Danny?
That's it. Or athletics. I have a hockey game on Saturday. That's why I won't be here.
One of the two works. Jive's probably playing pickleball.
You're getting exercise, right? Yep.
Kev is exercising in some fashion right now, I'm sure. As we know,
and Neil's dancing.
Kev loves
He's exercising.
Exercise. Yeah,
Yeah, and Neil's
Neil
dancing.
is he's dancing, and he's having a great time.
He's getting
So
spry for Goose Miss.
exactly, Goosemas is going to be a great time. We're all going to be there except for Jive. But this we're not talking about Goosemas here yet. But thanks everybody who's tuned into this episode of Evening After Show. We appreciate all of you tuning in. This was definitely more on track than last night's episode, I think. Funny how that works when there's only two of us.
I didn't catch it, so I'll have to listen for the shenanigans.
Oh, you weren't even there last night. One of the most incoherent podcasts we ever done, and I encourage you all to go listen to it. It's quite something. But we will be back on Saturday after the Bristol show, 8 p.m. Eastern. Please join us to recap. It's going to be a great time, as always. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. Have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic Friday.
Friday.
We'll see you on Saturday evening. That's all for us.